Studios in Kennett Square, Pennsylvania, it's the Longwood Rotary Club Home Edition on Thursday, May 7th, 2020. Normally meeting at the beautiful, world-famous Longwood Botanical Gardens. Guests today are Dave Foresman, Jordan Gushurst, Doherty Kohl, Al George, Lenny Rivera, and our very special guest, Dr. Dusty Blakey, Superintendent of the Kennett School District, and John Sanville, Superintendent of Unionville School District. Plus, another very special four-way test presentation from Magdalen and Juliette Brittingham. Please welcome our host for today's meeting, Longwood Rotary Club President, Bob Curran.
And good morning, Longwood Rotarians, for our online home version for today, Thursday, May 7th, 2020. Believe it, May, we're already at May. Unbelievable. Hey, we got a great show coming up for you today. We've got the superintendents of both Kennett High School and Unionville High School. We've got member spotlight. We got thought of the day. So let's get right into it. But today we are celebrating members' birthdays who were born in the month of May. So during our normal face-to-face meetings, we celebrate by providing those members with their own birthday cupcakes. However, we are celebrating online, and Lenny Rivera has graciously volunteered to eat those cupcakes on behalf of those birthday members throughout today's program. So let's begin with Brendan Murphy's birthday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
I'd like to introduce our Thought of the Day presenter, Jordan Gushurst.
Good morning, everybody. My thought for the day is very simple, and it is don't take things in life for granted. I had internet service last week get knocked out by Comcast for, I think, about 6 hours, and it's one of those things where you just don't appreciate having it until it's gone. So kind of like electricity, internet service is one of those things. Just every day be happy that we have this wonderful technology available to us. That's it.
Thank you, Jordan, for that thought of the day.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
You know, we started this year with 4 major initiatives to accomplish this year. Pre-K education, housing, a one-service community from Kennett through Oxford, and the final initiative was the transportation initiative. Now, this initiative was the most broad in scope and probably one of the more difficult to achieve. So today we're going to take you through the research phase. Jordan is going to take you through part 1 of a 3-part series that we'll finish up before the end of the month on the transportation initiative. And today is mostly about the research section of how what was learned in the community, and then through later presentations, we'll talk about what we plan to do and also what we need you to do. So Jordan, take it away.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jordan, and I'm going to give a presentation today about improving transportation resilience for low-income families in southern Chester County. Today's presentation is the first of 3, where we're going to talk about what we've learned, what are some of the practical solutions we can implement, and how the Longwood Rotary can help make this happen. So to start, I'm going to talk about what we learned and how did we learn those things. So the main thing that we have done outside of our individual Rotary team meeting is to work with the Southern Chester County Opportunity Network on a monthly basis. And this group, some of you may know, it was formed several years ago to bring different stakeholders together to focus on things that were needed to be improved in our community. So housing, economic development, jobs, transportation, etc. were different topics. So this group brought together people who were interested in solving transportation issues. We meet each month or pre-COVID, we're meeting each month at the shops at Liberty Place in Kennett Square. And we had people from CACS and Home of the Sparrow and Rotary members and some other volunteers who were just interested in this topic. One of the things that we did, one of the biggest things we did early on in our meetings was to decide that we wanted to conduct a survey. And so a survey was done in both English and Spanish pretty extensively throughout the area. So that means at the library, at the Kennett Laundromat, CVIM, LCH, asking people, what are you using right now for transportation? And what would you like to be using? And what are some of the challenges that you have? And so there were a lot of really interesting findings on that, and I'll discuss those shortly. We also met with graduates of the Getting Ahead, Staying Ahead program, which is the Bridges Out of Poverty model that's being pursued in the county. And we worked with several different individuals last year, helping individuals with cars that had broken down and needed solutions. So we learned a heck of a lot working with individual cases. So what did we learn? Transportation can be a really complicated problem. It just is. Chester County has some unique challenges because of the cost of housing and where the jobs are, limited public transportation, etc. There's a lot of different challenges here. No easy answers. So for example, the survey that was done, what we found was about 1/3 of people are using public transit. So like the Scoot bus or Rover, something like that. And 2/3 of people are using cars. So as a group, we divided, and one person and one set of people were focused on Scoot issues. And Curran from our club was also involved with that initiative. And I have been leading some of the initiatives on the car owners, people who own cars or are relying on cars. What else have we learned? There isn't any one thing that you could do that's going to fix this problem. And really, all of the solutions come down to partnering with different groups, nonprofits, commercial businesses, et cetera, to find ways to solve these problems. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about Scoot, but I have mentioned this before. Changes were made starting last September to change the route structure of Scoot, does not go to certain places and to go to other places, trying to boost ridership and to increase awareness. So things like improving signage, more consistency of schedule. Those changes have been underway, and analysis is being done to see, is that really working? Is it increasing paid ridership? Not the sort of unpaid senior riders. We're looking to boost paid ridership. So we can talk about that more, but there's been a lot of work, and there's now a group of users who are providing regular feedback to TMAC and others around that. So I'm going to focus on the car side, which is really where 2/3 of people are. They're either they have their own cars or they're getting rides from other people. And one of the things we learned, I'm going to switch here to sort of the economics of owning a car and buying a car. What you find is that there are very few cars that are low cost and reliable. And if you have low income, it's very difficult to find a car that's going to work for you that you can afford. So there is also not a lot of sophistication on the buying side, and so people get taken advantage of. If you have no credit or bad credit, chances are when you go to buy a car, you're going to get an awful deal. I won't go into all of the details here, but if you look at someone making between $10 or $12 an hour, there's a very limited amount of money that they're going to be able to spend on a car. So you're really looking at cars that are $4,000 or less. $4,000 to $5,000 or less is the most kind of they can afford to spend on a car. So the good news is that there's a lot of opportunities for improvement. If you look at things that we can do, I've had conversations with a number of different people, and you see that people get bad deals on car because they don't know. They're not experienced shoppers. They have a limited inventory. They don't have time. They get into trouble because their car breaks down and they need their car to get to work. And then not having enough time leads to bad decision making, and then they're stuck for a very long time. So it's hard to get out of that hole. One of the things, Jim Mercante, who was on the board at the YMCA, one of the initiatives we launched, and I'll talk about that more next week, but is to sort of help people with repairs and having a trusted partner network for repairs. So we're looking at education. We're looking at low-cost, affordable repairs. We're looking at lower-cost towing, all kinds of opportunities there to really improve the situation. And we did all this work sort of pre-COVID, but now that the world has changed in a lot of ways, and the impact is going to play out for a long time, I think that transportation is really foundational for a lot of other problems. We're not going to be able to solve housing problems and job problems unless we can get people into reliable transportation. There are a number of things that absolutely can help. And I'll give you one example. We helped someone, we got a car donation from a member of the community who offered that car to CAX. And he said he wanted to go to a worthy home. CAX says we don't do car donations. So we were able to, using the Southern Chester County Opportunity Network, find a woman who needed a car. She had had a car and then it broke down and she couldn't afford to repair it. And she's taking care of her 97-year-old father living at home, and she really needed a car. And so we were able to help her buy insurance for this car, and to buy this car at a very modest price, and to get on a payment plan that she could afford. It was about $100 a month. So $100 a month, and she is thrilled with this car. So I don't have time to get into all the details, but there's a lot of opportunities here where we can play matchmaker and find really worthy homes for good cars that are older but still reliable. So that's it for now. Stay tuned for next week, and I'll get into more of the details.
Thank you, Jordan, for that update, and we look forward to additional details in the next couple of weeks.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
Now I would like to bring you a short video in appreciation of Mother's Day coming up this Sunday.
I'm always the silliest. My mom makes me get big and strong. She goes on roller coasters even though she doesn't even want to go on them. She just does funny stuff and occasionally tickles us. She gives me this one note that I keep in my backpack. Dear Katie, I love you every day so much.
I can tell my mom anything.
My mom's the best because she gives me bubble gum and she doesn't let my brother have it. I liked it when she takes me to Chuck E. Cheese. She does the best scary stories. Boo! Boo!
She always says, stay calm, you can do it.
And when we have special dates, it makes it special days. And Mommy is a beautiful princess. I love Mom. I can thank my mom for being my mom. Thanks for letting me lick the spoon. Thank you for teaching me knock-knock jokes.
For always helping me look on the bright side.
For making me feel special. For helping me clean up my mess. For rubbing my back before I go to sleep. Thank you, Mom. I give my mom big smooches. You're the best. You're one of my best friends. You're one of my best friends. Happy Mother's Day, Mommy. We save the mommies.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
And now I'd like to introduce our member spotlight for this week, Mr. Al George.
Good morning, everyone. I hope everybody's staying safe. Personally, myself, I'll be glad when this quarantine is over and we can get back to some kind of normal meetings. But a little bit about myself. I grew up in Delaware County, a little town called Boothwyn, and I stayed there until 1972 when my wife and I, in 72, we moved out to Chadds Ford. And believe it or not, we're still living in Chadds Ford, a couple different houses later, but we're still in Chadds Ford. We have 2 daughters, Andrea in Westchester, and Christina is in Landenberg also. So we have 6 grandchildren, and we have 2 great-grandchildren. I've been in the real estate business since 1980, okay? And then in 1985, Sky and I, we developed a self-storage company on McFarland Road. And how that came about was that I would have many of my real estate customers and clients ask me where they could store their goods during this transition into their new home. So that I recognized the need there, and we started looking into it. So we bought 3 acres down on McFarland Road, and we developed a self-storage company. And today we have over 30,000 square feet of storage space. And I know some of you have used my real estate services, and you have used self-storage. And to that, we say, thank you so much, and we really do appreciate your business. As far as hobbies go and other things, other activities, when things slow up a little bit here and there, I do enjoy reading a lot of presidential history, U.S. presidential history, and I do some light woodworking, okay? And I do hiking. I like to hike, and I get on the Appalachian Trail as often as possible. I also like antique and classic cars. I presently have a 1954 Chevy, 2-door Bel Air Sports Coupe hardtop, 6-cylinder engine, 235 cubic inches, just some minor details. We love to take it to car shows and parades. So I have been a member of the Longwood Rotary now since 2006. I really enjoy this club a lot, and I enjoy helping out whenever possible. Oh, there's one more thing, and I'm going to cut it off here. As Sky said to me, he said, make sure you show a picture of Tony. Now, Tony will be 2 years old next month. He loves to eat, plays hard, and takes long naps. I'll show you a picture of Tony. This is Tony. Okay, so that's all I have for now. Okay, so and I want everyone to please stay safe and hope to see you soon. Thank you. Take care now. Have a great day.
Thanks, Al, for being in the spotlight today.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
And I'd like to introduce our Sergeant-at-Arms for this week, Don Doherty Kohl.
Good morning, Rotarians. It's Dawn with After the Bell here. I hope you are doing great. Of course, the COVID-19 virus has impacted a lot of organizations, especially a lot of nonprofits like the Girl Scouts of America. Our video producer, Dave Harridan, is especially fond of Thin Mints, for which he stocks up and buys a year's inventory in advance. He's a hoarder. But because of the COVID-19 virus, his inventory is dwindling really fast, and he's getting a little bit nervous. But don't worry, Dave. The Girl Scouts are releasing a whole new lineup of yummy limited edition cookies just in time for quarantine for you to try at home. Of course, there'll be the famous I Used to Be Thin Mints, and my husband's favorite, Tagalones, the Dosey Don't Touch Your Face, Zoom Macarons, watch out for these, the Presidential Bleach Bites, not their big sellers yet, the Some More Time Homeschooling Your Kids, getting very popular. I think I'm going to ginger snap, And don't forget Dave Harridan's new favorite, Liquor Doodles. So enjoy those Girl Scout cookies. They're going to be selling out fast.
Happy day to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
We'd like to introduce our two guests today. They're from our two local school districts, the superintendents. From Kennett Consolidated School District, we have Dusty Blakey. And from Unionville School District, we have John Sanville. So please welcome them to Rotary.
Good morning, Rotarians. We have today John Sanville and Dusty Blakey, who are our two superintendents in this area. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us today. You've got a lot going on in your world with all the hundreds and thousands of students we've got. So thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. I'm just going to ask you to start with here with the first general question is, how are things going? And just let you take it away from there. So let me start with John. Thank you again for being with us. How are things going?
Well, it's good to be here, Dave. Thanks for having us. And I think this counts as an attendance day. That this isn't. I don't need makeup for this one.
Right.
It is from a Unionville Chad's Ford perspective. Things are going very well as can be expected. No one started this year thinking that we were going to have a third of our school year done through distance learning. And I give a lot of credit to our kids, to our staff, to our parents, and our community to be able to pivot so quickly. It's been impressive to see, and it's not what we were anticipating, and it's not what we're really designed to do, but something that is working pretty well at this point, given the circumstances.
Dusty, go ahead. How are things going in your world?
Well, I echo John and say thank you for having. In my 3 months here in Kennett, it's been an interesting time. Things are going well. Very much similar to what John said. I think just having to pivot very quickly and go from a typical traditional environment to an all online environment, and making sure our staff has the appropriate training, make sure our kids and families also understand how to use the technology, and then just finding the right way to deliver the information and making sure our students aren't staying put and that they're progressing as well. And that's the challenge that we're all facing, is providing good quality instruction for our kids and making sure that we're filling the gaps and we're focusing on learning. And then how do parents help? And how can parents be a part of the educational process? Because now that many of them are home too, and they have to now manage their households and be a part of the instructional process. And our teachers have that same challenge as well. So it's a learning experience for all of us as we move forward. But I think collectively, it's been a good job being done by everybody. It's a lot of hard work, and everyone's working hard. And, we just like to say thank you to our students, our community, our parents, our teachers, everybody. It's going well.
So how are the teachers holding up?
Well, I think, like anybody else, it's a learning experience. It's about time management. It's how to manage your time well, because you now have the distractions of being at home. If you have children or animals or other responsibilities, it's how do you dedicate time for that, but also dedicate time to making sure that you are doing your job appropriately and educating children. And so it's a challenge. I think, it's one that we're all kind of finding our way through, but so far, everything that I've been a part of or been made aware of has been positive.
Super. John, how are your teachers doing these days?
Yeah, we've got similar experiences as Dusty had in Kennett. It is one of the, there's a lot of challenges, but there's also silver linings. I kind of like the idea that the distractions with dogs and dogs barking and kids coming into the scene and all that kind of it shows, I think it shows the kids the human side of their teachers and their principals, that they get to see them in their home environment, and things are not always neat and clean. And I think that's been one of the pluses, that maybe even though we're apart, we maybe know each other a little bit better than we did before. Here we are in our offices, and you see our backgrounds and what's happening, and could have a barking dog here in a moment, but I'll even show you. At least we got a sleeping dog there. So it's there you have it.
Let sleeping dogs lie.
Exactly.
Right. So how about the online learning? Because that's been quite a challenge. You've gone from non-online learning or analog learning to now the digital world. How's that working for both of you?
John, I'll let you go first on this one.
Sure. You have so in a brick and mortar environment, you've got some students who thrive and some students who don't, and some staff that thrive and some that maybe don't. And what we're finding is that we have some kids that are really thriving in this environment that maybe don't thrive normally. It's really very interesting. It's that it suits them better. So you're also finding the converse, that there are some students who are not connecting or have trouble connecting, and we're having to put into place interventions for our support staff and our counselors to touch base and reach out to students who aren't engaging. It's a very small population, but it is there, and it's so you get to see who's engaged and who's not. But overall, I would say it's been a positive change. And this is the other thing for us, to just moving forward, that regardless of COVID-19 and what happens there, we will not return to schools, even once this is over with. We're not going to return to the same educational environment that we left, because we have found that teachers can do it. They're good at providing distance learning, that there are students that thrive in that environment, and that it's gonna look different because we found out that we can do it, and we can do it well, and that there's some kids that do better in it. So I think you're going to see more of this as we move into the future.
Yeah, I would agree with John's assessment. I think that we found this is an opportunity for a lot of people to really try out new things, to really expand on the opportunities. You have some people that are very tech savvy, and that allows them to use those skills and to really integrate that into what their instruction is. And also you have some people that aren't very tech savvy, and you're trying to bring them along as well. And that now the kids have an opportunity to use their skills differently and be really involved in their education a lot more, because they're able to use those tech skills that they have to create things, and use this Zoom process to have a lot of learning that may not have been. It's non-traditional learning, and we're all learning this together. But I think, to John's point, it will change how we educate students in the future. I think it's a positive change, but it's a lot of hard work. It will really look at how we professionally develop our staff differently. It gives us opportunities now for snow days, in the future. Now we talk about how we could actually educate students from afar on snow days, as opposed to just having those days off. So it really gives us a lot to think about in terms of how we educate students in the future. But, the challenges are going to be there. What happens when the technology goes down? How do we make sure students, still have access? Same thing for families and students that don't have access. making sure that they get, paper copies of things, or how do we do that? Those are the challenges that we're facing. But again, it causes you to think quickly on your feet and really adapt well and adapt quickly. And that's what we've all had to do in this period of time. But I think, people are working hard, and that everyone has their, the right focus in mind, and it's going pretty well.
Specifically for students who may not, for whatever reasons, not have internet access or limited internet access, how are you trying to address their needs?
John, I know you were going to say something. Do you want to add something?
Well, yeah, I was going to thank you, Dusty. I'll come back to that question. I'll let Dusty take that one first. But another piece to this that we're finding, I know we're all seeing it because we have regular conversations with all the superintendents in Chester County, is the social emotional impact that this has had, not just on students, but also on staff.
Mm-hmm.
So the things that we are doing from an outreach perspective with our psychologists, with our social workers, with our counselors, reaching out to families, reaching out to students, reaching out to our staff, because there is a sense of grief and loss to this. The real easy ones to talk about are seniors, that you think about all those important events at the end of the year, prom and graduation and senior awards that everybody looks forward to participating in as a meaningful culmination of your K-12 career. That's there. But there's lots of other events that just the social circle connectedness that you've lost. We all went into education wanting to connect with people, and the importance of relationships, and how do you keep that going in a virtual world. We've been tackling and battling and struggling with to some degree, and I think that's important for folks to know that this is something that we are all talking about and trying to address the social emotional side to all this.
Yeah. And so before I answer your other question, I think John's hit the nail on the head. I think you see it when we're in a traditional environment, but you pay, for lack of a better way to describe it, you kind of pay less attention to it. But in this environment, it's really forced us to because it's now prevalent, where, we are social creatures, and now we're seeing that when you take that away, how does that impact people and their psyche and, all the other things. And so there has been a lot of attention now being paid to social emotional support during this time. And then how does it carry over into the traditional school year and the traditional brick and mortar type of environment? Those were conversations that were happening anyway when we were in the brick and mortar environment, but now you add more fuel to it, I guess, now that, we're not there, and how do you can deliver those services, and how does the impact of loss, as John described, how is that impacting everybody across the board? So, and I think that leads into the other questions you asked about connectivity. What we found is we've had to provide and make sure that we have several hundred families that we have been able to identify at this point in time that either don't have internet access or don't have technology. And so we've had to make that available on the fly, and we've had to find ways to provide the internet connectivity outside of one's cell phone to make sure that our students and families have access. And equity is always a part of the conversation. How do we provide equal and equitable access to what it is that we're doing? And this kind of has allowed us to kind of, again, step back and think, how can we make sure that the things that some of us take for granted are available to everybody? And so we've had to have the Khajiit buses, and we've put them in areas where we've tried to make sure that we can have hotspots available. We've gone out and purchased hotspots and given them to families, so when they come get their computer, they also pick up a hotspot. and they're able to have that in their home now. We've looked at and had conversations with all of the major cable internet providers, and they're providing free and low-cost internet access to certain families that meet certain requirements. And we're trying to get that information out. But when you don't have access in the first place, getting the information to you sometimes is a challenge. And, you know, we're talking about feeding kids and families. And so there's a whole gamut of things that are involved in making sure that students have quality education.
What's happening with, you mentioned graduation and year-end awards, and I guess proms are not going to happen. So but how are you dealing with these events that are impactful for the students, especially the seniors?
So on our end, we made the decision that graduation will be July 25th. We're pushing it back to July, and we're holding out hope that we can do it in person. If we can't do it in person, we're prepared to do maybe we have a couple of plans for some distance graduation kinds of opportunities. You may have seen some of the ads for school districts that are using old movie theaters, and you can come in your cars and social distance, but you're there in person. We've got some plans to do that if social distancing is such that we can't do a regular graduation. And then plan C would be a virtual graduation. We are going to have that week, that last week in July, we're calling it Senior Week. We'll also be holding prom, if we can do it, and also senior awards. So that's all going to happen that week. We pushed it back as late as we thought that we could in terms of being able to get everybody together, because once you hit August, everyone's scattered to the winds with college and the like, and also hold out hope that we could do it in person. So we'll just have to see where the governor's plans to get back to normal, where that all comes through.
Yeah, and we're in a similar situation. We're hoping that we can have an in-person ceremony sometime in late July as well. We're still planning. We just got survey results back from our seniors. We had our senior class president and senior leaders put out a survey in conjunction with some conversations that we've had with them. We just got those results back. So we're looking at the possibility of having an in-person graduation in late July, as well as doing something that would be similar to a senior week or something along that towards the latter or their normally scheduled time in June, to look at the senior awards and some of the other things, as well as the possibility of doing a kind of a drive-up ceremony where the students can actually get out, walk up and come down the steps as they would in graduation normally, have someone there, a photographer there to take their picture, and then they would have their cap and gown on the steps and do the traditional things just in case we can't have an in-person graduation. So we're in the process of planning those details out now, and we'll have something out, I suspect, by early next week with a game plan as to what we're going to do with graduation and seniors. But this is, a time that's important. And so we want to make sure that we plan with them, but we have plan A, B, and C, as John mentioned, so that we can give them access to the most traditional environment and graduation as possible.
Yeah. We may end up with plan D, E, or F.
Exactly. A lot of moving parts.
Which were my grades, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think so. That's okay. Well, that sounds great. You guys are, keeping the traditions, and I think probably creating new traditions as well. So good for you. So obviously, I think the last question is, what does the next school year look like? And I don't know how you could predict that. What are you preparing for, whatever contingencies may have to occur?
Well, I think, there are a lot of thoughts about next year. A lot of people have, and we all have concerns, or will we be back in September or August as normal? And how do we plan and prepare for it if we're not, and how long does that play out? And I think, we've lost sports for the springtime, and how does that impact the sports for the fall? And, I think it's a waiting game. I know, John, again, has some access in his position with the State Administrative Association. So he'll be getting that information and help us communicate back. But I think we'll all be planning on both a non-traditional and traditional approach back to the fall. I'll let John pick up on it from there.
A couple of things, and I have some, just as representative to Harrisburg, is the representative for Chester County for the superintendents and school districts to Harrisburg. I've got some info. The other is sort of ad hoc information. My sister works at the White House in healthcare. She provides healthcare policy. And before that, she's on loan to the White House to provide that support from NIH. And she's worked with Dr. Fauci for years. In fact, that was her direct supervisor. So I have a little bit of inside information relative to that I'd be happy to provide offline. It's been really helpful just from my seat, and I can pass things along to others in the county and across the Commonwealth, what we're hearing nationally. If you just look at, what is it going to look like and when is it going to look even close to normal? If you look at the president's plan to remobilize the country, and they're looking at 14 days of decreasing infections. If you look at the governor's plan and the way it impacts Chester County, you're looking at over a 14-day period for us to go to level green, which is when schools reopen. Schools don't reopen in Pennsylvania until we get to the governor's level green, phase green. That means we go 14 days with fewer than 262 new infections. That's 19 a day. Right now we're averaging 50 to 60 a day. So if you do the math, I think it's going to take us a little bit of time to get back to the point where schools are going to be open in the way that we're accustomed to them being open. And so with that being the lens that we're looking through, online learning we're doing now, but when we do come back, what's the social distancing requirements? Do we have an A-B schedule where the students, only half the students come in at a time? How do you keep, you think about when you go to the grocery store now, how you kind of space yourselves out so you're not violating that 6-foot rule. That's a tough thing, getting kids on and off a bus and keep that rule going. So we've got a lot of things to think about to bring kids back and staff back safely.
Yeah, and that also doesn't even consider the economic challenges that ABC schedule would in what costs we would incur, or all of the other economic components that would be involved in trying to come back in a non-traditional sense. And so there are a lot of moving parts, I think.
Yep. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. Last question for you is, how can service organizations like Longwood Rotary Club and others help you all in the challenges that lie ahead from a volunteer standpoint or a financial standpoint? Do you have any thoughts on that?
John, you want to go, or?
Sure.
I mean, I could go.
It's just send us your money. That's no. It's I appreciate that, Dave, and I am always humbled by not just the great group of folks at Longwood Rotary, but this community. And by the way, we are the same community. We're not. Sometimes Route 1 seems like the Great Wall of China, and it's two different communities. We're all the same community, and just the way people support one another, whether it's for CACs or for LCH or other service, Rotary Lions, other service organizations, people willing to help each other. And I think we just need to all be mindful of the circumstances that our neighbors and our friends and our community are in right now, because they are difficult times, and there may be more difficult times in front of us, and we just need to be ready to act and support. So I think that, to me, that's the place we need to be.
Yeah, I think John summed it up well. I think that one of the things that we need to just kind of be thinking about and be thoughtful with is that, some of our students, their primary needs have to be met first before they can learn. And, we have kids and families, to John's point, that may be struggling right now. And if we can provide food, and we all have feeding programs that we're, providing our kids and families with food that need it and some other things. And so you can never have enough volunteers or enough food, but I think it's our primary responsibility to look out for our neighbors and to look out for each other, because we really are one big community. And in my 3 months here, I can tell you that it has been nothing but, outreach and support and, togetherness. And it's really been impactful for me and to me. And I'm just appreciative to be part of the community.
Thank you both for your leadership. Thank you for, on behalf of all your staff and teachers and food service people and just all the thousands of people that are involved with this. But thank you for looking after our youth and our community. It's glad to have you guys in charge. Thank you so much. And thanks for being here today.
Thank you for having us. Yep.
No, thanks a bunch, Dave.
See you, John. Thanks, Dave.
Well, thank you, Dusty and John, for that excellent presentation.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
Now we're ready for Happy Dollars, and your envelopes are going to be getting very stuffed now. Happy Dollars. Even if you took a second envelope and said more Happy Dollars, by now, I think going with the bag of Happy Dollars, just keep stuffing them in there. And we've got plenty of room if you go to the bag, and we'll be counting Happy Dollars once we get back together.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
Hey, next week we're planning another great meeting. We've got a video from the Unionville High School Interact students, as well as our main presentation from the Chester County Food Bank. So looking forward to that. And now we want to take it out with a very special four-way test with Rochelle Brittingham and her daughters. See you next week.
The four-way test of the things we think, say, and do.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? Is it fun?